All right, so from the past videos, you should have an idea of the difference between Git and GitHub. So Git is a software that allows us to do version control. So it allows us to have a way to capture moments in time of our code where it worked perfectly, and we want to lock that in time, so if we make changes and completely flub it up, we can go back to a prior version that was working before. It also allows us a great tool to do collaboration with our team members so that we can share each other's code and have a single repository, a single location where all our files exist, and we can keep track of each other's changes. We can all have a backup copy of the project and that kind of thing. And then GitHub then is a extension of Git. They are not the same thing. GitHub is a website that hosts all of our repositories, which are our project files that we have locked into versioning control. And so Git is the software, and GitHub is the the website that will host our files. There's also Bitbucket. That's another one that does the hosting of files. So we're going to use GitHub in this class. And so if you haven't already, go ahead and get yourself an account in GitHub. And we're going to get really comfortable with using this through the semester. So get yourself an account in GitHub. You'll go ahead and put in a username and password if you haven't already. You don't have to use your OTC email. That's completely up to you which email you use. And then once you sign up for GitHub, it'll ask you to verify your email. So you'll have to go and pull your email and verify the account. And then once you're ready, or if you have already done so, go ahead and log in. Oops, I put the wrong. Oh, there we go. No, I didn't. JD. Oh, I spelled it wrong. So first you have to remember your login information. That's always the challenge. Okay, so logging in, there we go. So once we're logged into GitHub, what I want to do is we're just going to run through a practice scenario so we can see how it works. So the first thing we need is a repository. And a repository is a folder, if you will, that's holding on to this particular project. So I'm kind of thinking in lines of your group project, and you have that case study. So I'm going to create a new repository for case study. So it's really just a folder that's holding on to all of those files. By default, they're going to be public. We don't have the ability to do private. That's another ball game, another day. As a student, you can get private repositories, but for now. And anytime you're initializing a repository, in other words, you're first creating your repository, this is the very first time, you're going to initialize it with a README file. And so a README file is just that. It's the very first time you create a repository, it's initialized with this README file. So then we're going to create the repository. And there it goes. So now we have our case study repository with the README file in it that really doesn't say anything except case studies, so that's not very exciting yet. And so we've got started. Now, the next thing I want you to do is leave this open, and you're going to go to a site called GitKraken. And what GitKraken is a GUI version of Git. And so it enables us to utilize the Git software, but instead of having to use the command line, GitKraken gives us a really pretty graphical user interface, which is what we're used to navigate through Git. So once you get Git, that's a lot of Gits. I'm getting good at this. GitKraken, once you download GitKraken and you open it, it's going to look something like this. And so what I suggest you do, for a lot of reasons, just kind of take my word and you'll see this in a minute. Instead of opening this with an email and a password, go ahead and sign in with the GitHub account. And it's going to default to the GitHub account that you have left open in this window. So it's going to default to this GitHub account. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And it's success. Yay, it knows that I'm there. Congratulations. Fantastic. So I'm going to go ahead and clear this out and go back in here. So nothing pretty is happening yet, but the magic will happen here pretty soon. So if I look in here, I can see that I have this case study, and it's just got the one file. But the idea is I want to have a copy. I want to clone a copy of this repository and keep a copy of it in my hard drive. So I have a master, if you will, up on the, and we in fact would call it a master branch, a master up on GitHub, which is in the cloud, but I want to clone a full copy into my local directory. So if I click on this folder and choose clone, what a clever name, I have several options, and because I'm logged into GitHub, I can clone it from this drop down. So I can say I'm going to clone that case study. I could also clone it with a URL. In other words, if I click on this URL and copy it in here, I could do it that way. Right here, I could do it that way as well. So whichever way you feel, if you're going to be sharing files, you might have one person that has the repository in their GitHub account, but since it's public, you might not have access to the login of their account, but you'd certainly have access to their URL. So if you're all sharing that same repository, you might need that URL to all access that same repo. Anyway, so I'm going to use this case study. Then obviously you need to, where am I going to clone it to? What's going to be the folder in my local directory? I'll just put it on my desktop for now. Obviously that's not a good place in the long run, but just for my demo, I'm going to call it case study. So on my desktop is my copy, my cloned copy of the case study repo. Okay, and so once I have where I'm cloning it to and what I'm cloning, now I'm going to head and clone the repo. And it successfully cloned it, and open it now. So if I look on my desktop, I can see that I have case study. If I open that folder, I should see that in case study I have a Git folder. So that's what actually initializes this into a Git repo. It's just a library of files that enables this to be a Git repository, and it's keeping track of all of that versioning and everything for me. And then there's that README file that we saw earlier. Okay, so this is what it looks like now. Nothing has happened yet. We have what's called an initial commit. And what a commit is that we are locking that version of our project, all of the code, we're locking that snapshot in time. So we've got a snapshot of what it looks like at this point in time. And we really don't have a lot to show for ourselves yet, but we will. All right, so what I'm going to do next is I'm going to open up my Atom. I think I am anyway. And wait, spin, and rotate. So I'm going to open up that local folder on my desktop, case study. All right, and so if I've done that successfully now, I should see a bunch of extra windows that I'm going to close out. There we go. So I have that folder. I made a copy of it. So there's my Git, and there's my README folder. Fantastic. All right, well, this isn't a very good website yet, and every website needs an index.html, so let's create a new index.html. Now, remember, I'm keeping this is my local copy, and so I'm going to make the first HTML document, yay, my first page of our project. I'm very proud of myself. And then, of course, it needs a title, our case study. Okay. So then I'm going to save that. So in my local repository, I now have added a file, index.html. Okay. So now I'm going to go back into GitHub, and you'll see there's a new little icon here, WIP, work in progress, and it shows that I have there's one new file that was created since the last snapshot, since the last commit was done. So if I click on that, and I can see, let's see, click on my work in project, and then there's my index.html. I'd like to make this a little bit bigger because I was actually expecting it to show up on the side. There it is. Okay, so here it is. And if I double click on it, I can see in green, green indicates all the newness. So obviously the whole file is new, so I'm getting this green icon, and all of the text on here is green. Fantastic. All right, so we're going to do what's called a stage. And stage is a holding area for all of the files that we're going to want to continually add to until we get to the point where we want to lock that version in time and then commit the snapshot. So this is just a temporary, we stage files, it's just a temporary holding file until we're ready to make that commit. We're ready to make that commitment. So when we're ready to, let's say we're ready to make that a commitment, we are ready to lock this version in time, and there's always a commit message. So there's always some kind of tag along with each change, and each change is being tracked so that we know at this version of this version what was changed. And so I'm going to write, we created the index page. And then you could put a description if you want, and so forth. So now I'm going to lock this snapshot in time by committing it. So I click on commit, and we've got a snapshot, a version recorded. Okay. Now, it's just recorded on our local page, so it's not committed to our GitHub account. I guess you can't really see all of that, but we're good. Oh, okay. So now we're at a point where we want to push, as we call it, those changes up to the GitHub account. We want to incorporate that to the main master account, if you will, so that if our other team members want to see what we've done, they'll have access to that which we've already created. So by using this push icon, and because I'm connected to that GitHub URL, it says push successfully. And so now if I go into GitHub, which is not there, where is my GitHub? Let's see, here it is. Now if I refresh this, in fact, I have that index.html page. So if another team member now pulls down those changes, they'll have all of the changes that it updated from the master. Let's go ahead and just make a change here in our, where I'm going to do it on the master document, so to speak. So let's see. Going to edit with the little pencil, and we need a paragraph. Every page needs a paragraph. Okay. Okay. And we need to commit that change, so added a paragraph to the index page. Okay. And now we're going to commit those changes. So now our master has all of the committed changes, but my local directory, my local Git repository still hasn't had the updated changes. So then I come back later on and I want to make sure that everything I have is current. So when I start working on a page, I have all the current information. So I will go back into Git Kraken and I will pull. So that is going to go check to make sure that I have the most current versions. And you can see right away that I've got the new commit. It says that a new page, that this page has been modified. So if I click on that modified page, index.html, where is that? Why is that not showing up? There it is, sorry. When I click on it, I can see right away, because this version has been documented for me, that there was a change made. Green means something new. So something new was added to this particular page, and now I have a copy of that. So you can see how we can keep track of each other's changes. Instead of reading through a whole bunch of code and just sending our files back and forth through email, this is a lot more effective way of doing teamwork. All right, so let's do one more addition. We need to refresh this, I suppose. We haven't got a refresh version here. Let's see, somehow we need to refresh our, I'm sure there was a way to refresh this. It should have, oh, we didn't make a new page yet, sorry. It actually did refresh. I don't know what I'm thinking here. I'm ahead of myself. I was thinking we were creating a new page already, but we haven't, and that's what we were going to do next. So we, in fact, did get the updated version. There it is. There's the every page that we added in the GitHub account. I don't really like this. I'm going to change this to "We are loving Git." I think I'm going to delete what was in there and make my own change there. That's better. And save that. And then I also want to add a new page. So I'm going to do a new file. We're going to call this page2.html. And I'm going to create a new page. And my second page, there we go, and save that. So now I have a second file. That was what I was thinking of originally, and we've deleted and added to the original index page. So let's look at our work in progress. Close out this modified window that we saw before, and if we look in our work in progress, we can see that index, let's click on index. Index had a deletion and it had an addition, so it's letting us know that this line was altered, and we can see that we remember doing that. That sounds right. And then on page 2, we can see that we've added a new page, that's hence the green little icon, and all of these lines of code were added. So we can stage both of these files into our temporary holding area. Maybe I want to make a third page, make a new file, make it simple, page3.html, and HTML. I'm not going to do much with it yet, just save it so that I can then see it in here. And so now in my work in progress, I can see that I have 2 new files. I have page 3, which is not staged yet, it's waiting. Page 2, which is ready to be committed, and page 1 that is made some changes. So if I hit commit now, the only two changes that is going to be committed are the change I did to the index, and then also my new page 3, page 2. Because page 3 hasn't been staged, it won't be committed, and it'll still be lingering, waiting to decide what am I going to do with it. So I think I'll go ahead and stage all of them, and we're going to go ahead and commit that. So I added 2 pages, 2 new pages, 2 new pages. Okay, and commit those changes. And remember, that's a local commit, and so I need to push those up to my GitHub account. So push, and if I get a success, I can go into not Atom, but case study. Okay, so now I'm going to refresh that, and I can see that. Let's see what we've got. In case study, I can see I've got 4 commits now. Each commit has some documentation as to what's been done. Okay, so I can click on 4 commits. Here I can see the different commits. So this commit added 2 new pages, etc., etc. So it just works its way on up. So if I wanted to see what was done in that commit, wow, I get all kinds of information about what was deleted, what was added, what was new pages that were added, and that kind of thing. So I think you're starting to get to see how powerful Git can be, and that we're utilizing GitHub as a place to hold or host our repository. And Git Kraken is a tool that we're going to be using because it's a graphical way to utilize Git and work with our local files and upload them to GitHub. So hopefully this is a good start, and I want us to start using Git for our case study project.